Hello, you guys. I'm Carlos here today with Reverend Valerie Steele, my good friend, and I'm so happy that you accepted to be here today.
Thank you.
And for this, the January edition of Circuit Update, and we are talking about, you know, I don't know if the word complicated, but problematic maybe, or touchy. I mean, it is a great celebration of the life and the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Yes.
and the legacy that he left us in this country. But that comes also with the problematic things around it, right? So before we get into it, would you mind just remind the good people of Oklahoma, the Oklahoma Conference, who you are and where you're serving?
Well, my name is Valerie Steele, and I serve at Quail Springs United Methodist Church in Oklahoma City. I have been in ministry with the Oklahoma Annual Conference. I believe this is my 21st year. So it's I can't believe that I would say that any place 21 years, but yes, been serving the wonderful people of Oklahoma for 21 years.
That's awesome.
In ministry.
That's great. So, as I was just kind of giving the little introduction, it is as I said, a wonderful thing that we celebrate the legacy and the wonderful things that Dr. King left for us, but so with the other problematic things that come along with it, and then of course in February that it is Black History Month. That the other thing that for me it is something on the lines that when it comes, for instance, for heritage, Latino Heritage Month or Hispanic Latino Heritage Month, I'm asked to speak on behalf of all the brown people, and it is nothing wrong with that. I just feel a way of a burden or something that that falls into us kind of thing. So what is your take on sometimes where those months and things come along that you are asked, like right now,
Right? Okay.
to speak on behalf of, of all the affected people of this harm that has been done through the years, to speak about it.
I believe I first have to get out there that even though my parents grew up with parents, of course, that did not graduate from high school. So my great grandmother would have been, she was born post enslavement, but her mother and father would have been enslaved. So that's like 3 generations or so away. So the interesting thing is that I was in a situation that I would say there was a lot of privilege. And so oftentimes I was raised, or more times than not, I was in neighborhoods that were predominantly white and schools that were predominantly white. So I call myself, I learned later, of course, well into my 20s, maybe early 30s, that I am bicultural, I know, thank you very much. And so I can walk that line. Maybe it's that I know what it looks like to assimilate.
Yeah.
So speaking on behalf of African Americans can sometimes look a little weird for me,
Right.
because there are African Americans, I'm sure, that would say, you don't know how it is to be African American. You don't know what the experience is, And I'm like, no, really, I do, because when it comes to racism and what have you, unfortunately, bigotry, things like that, I get that just as much as a person that perhaps was raised in a predominantly black neighborhood or in a predominantly black school. So, racism, bigotry, those things have absolutely they don't ask first, so are you educated?
Right.
Are you bicultural?
Right,
what
right.
zip code did you need?
Yeah.
They don't ask that first. It's all on the appearance.
Yeah. So, but do you have any particular hiccup or particular thing about, being asked in those things or asked to speak on behalf or on those special occasions to speak up? Or did you just come and say, okay, I'll do it, and it's no big deal for you?
I want to do it.
Okay, that's good.
I do. I feel that, first off, it's definitely a privilege to do it. However, I have to admit that, I haven't experienced everything that an African American
Right.
in the United States, let alone globally,
Right.
an African, a person,
Yeah.
of African
Yeah.
descent. I can't speak to all of it, but I can speak to my portion and
Yes.
the experience that
Yeah.
I've had.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's what I think is important.
Yeah, it is important. It is important to speak up. Yeah, you're right. So with that in mind, what do you think it is then the responsibility of every United Methodist in the conference and beyond? Because we are, at the end of the day, we are a global denomination. And so what do you think is the responsibility for every single Christian that comes, him or herself, United Methodist, to heal and repair race relations?
I believe that it's important, very important. It's part of our membership vows. That we will resist evil in whatever form. We will, whether it's oppression, whether it's racism, whether it's injustice in whatever form that it presents itself. We have a responsibility. And so I believe that every United Methodist
Yes.
that calls themselves a Christian,
Yes.
that they would seek to find ways to eradicate.
Yes.
And also, when we talk about how do we get to reconciliation, where are the ways that individuals are still doing harm
Yes. Yes.
in those
Yes.
areas, so that we can get to the point of reconciliation.
Right.
Grace is always there.
Yes.
We say as United Methodists, oh, but we have grace.
Yes. Yes.
However, I'm grateful for the grace. And I believe all as Methodists, anyone is grateful for the grace when someone offers that
Right.
and extends that,
Yes.
because that's extended before forgiveness is even asked. And so, but I think we need to do the hard work
Yeah.
so that we can get to a point of
Yes.
asking forgiveness through our actions,
Yes.
more so than just saying, would you forgive me?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. So I know that it is kind of in the questions that we send you, but it is kind of off script. So please, sorry for this. But in our previous before we started recording, we were talking about that. Unfortunately, in the climate that we're living, particularly in our country, that has so many things have become politicized. Unfortunately, that when we talk about these things of race relations and everything, always comes with maybe a party color or no party color. You know what I'm saying? It's just politics in general. So, and I think that these harm and race relations and the harm that has been done, but also then race relations period, I think transcends politics and really our political leaning. I don't think really has much bearing to do if we truly want to understand each other and that kind of thing. So what is your point? What will you approach, or if you have any wisdom as to how to put those politicized and climate, just put a pause, put it to the side, and then have a conversation with whoever it needs to be happening, and so that we can further those race relations.
I get this wrong every time. I know I shouldn't open it like that, but when it comes to quoting, I want to say it was Desmond Tutu, but I don't know that it really was. That the one thing we know about history is that we don't know our history. And so, but whoever said that, I did not. And I think that's where it has to start. When we don't know our history, when we have shamed cultures and we've shamed groups of people into not speaking the truth of their history and their experience, because how can we quibble with someone's experience? It's not mine.
Right.
So if it's yours, how can I say that you don't have a right to that experience? Then I think that's where we can start to learn. If we can learn from history, if we can learn history. And so often, when we oftentimes go back here in Oklahoma, we go back to the Tulsa Race Massacre. And so many people will say, and I hear it from persons that are white, I hear it from persons that are black, I never learned that when I was in school. That wasn't part of my Oklahoma history that I was required to learn, to have a credit in.
Yes.
So knowing that is the situation, and knowing that I didn't really hear about it until, or get an understanding and a grasp until I was in seminary. I mean, you know, I was in my 30s. That's a long time to have history withheld. That is something that is not talked about.
Yes.
And so I think if we have an understanding, a better understanding of real history, and not be ashamed of it because we're afraid that, oh, it's going to make little Johnny feel bad, you know, and teach it in a way that we make sure that no one is saying that you specifically
Right.
had a part
Right.
in the enslavement of a group of people, but perhaps the people that are your ancestors did, and perhaps even the because of whatever financial gains that you have, you know, that have been amassed through generational wealth, you have benefited from that.
Yeah.
It's those kinds of conversations I think we need to have in a very honest way,
Yes.
so that we can have a better understanding about it. And I think that will help to hopefully kind of push down that, you know, when someone brings up words like reparations, you know, people lose their minds. I don't owe anybody anything, you
Right,
know.
right,
I
right.
didn't
Yeah.
enslave you,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, and as a matter of fact, you aren't a slave, and
Yeah.
you know, those kinds of things come up. And I think we need to keep dialing back and peeling back at the layers
Yes.
that are there, so that we can get down to the truth, just like we do whenever we're better for it whenever we understand the context of
Yes.
our Bible.
Yes.
You know, the
Yes.
stories from our
Yes.
Bible. We're much better learners and being able to interpret whenever we
Yes.
can get at the layers of that.
Yes.
So why don't we do that when it comes to understanding, well, why is there a whole culture or group of people that seem to be upset about this? Or why is it important for us to learn
Right.
this history?
Yes.
But even why is it important for a culture that says, a dominant culture that says, but we don't want to talk about that because, you know, it's so bad that we don't want to. If you don't uncover the truth, you know, you can't heal what you don't
Yes,
reveal.
That's right. You can
And
hear what, yeah, I love that.
I didn't make that up either. So
That's great. That's great.
So that's where I
great.
think we are. You can't heal what you won't reveal.
That's
and-
awesome.
yeah.
That's confession.
Definitely, it is good for the soul.
Yeah, it's good for the soul. It is great for the soul. Yeah, yeah. It's a whole spiritual practice.
Yes.
Confession.
Yes.
Confession. All right. So, if you know, we are here giving options to our good listeners and viewers of some reading that it could be good for their soul, good for their, maybe it is in a Sunday school class or a study that we're going to do as a congregation, maybe, or just personally for growth. So, what are the books that you recommend the good people of Oklahoma Conference? Ta-da!
I know, right?
Yes.
This is not an exhaustive list.
No.
But one of the ones that I thought and believe is just so well written when it talks about particularly the complicity of the church in racism
Yes.
is Jamar Tisby's The Color of Compromise.
Oh, compromise.
That is, I mean, he's written some other books since, but that one really gets into it. It talks about even the history of the Methodist Church, our complicity, how we had an opportunity in 1870 to turn the tide and chose not to,
Yep.
where we, you know, things could have come out a little differently. You know, that would have been that would have been in the Reconstruction era.
Yeah.
And there was an opportunity for us to turn the tide on that, as far as leadership and blacks being part of the leadership of the church and preaching and becoming bishops and things like that. There was an opportunity, and it was decided against.
Yep.
And then there's some other history in there as well, as far as the church as a whole.
Yes.
Ibram X. Kendi,
Oh, yeah.
who talks about how to be an anti-racist.
Right,
It's an
right.
excellent book.
Yes.
Excellent book. People, and what I appreciate about him in his writing is that he says, oh yeah, black folks can be racist too. And you know, as black folks, you know, talk about kidding, what? So
I hear you.
it's,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's that we need to hear that.
Yes.
We need to hear that because
Yeah.
everybody can be a racist.
Yeah.
And how do we become an anti-racist?
Right.
not just say I'm not a racist.
Yes.
That's the big thing. Because that's the first thing that people. I'm not a racist. Sarah Augustine, The Land is Not Empty: Following Jesus in Dismantling the Doctrine of Discovery. For Native Americans.
Yeah.
Yes, understanding. I think that would help us with understanding first and foremost, what did the land, again, history, what did the land look like? And when we talk about sending immigrants back, that whole thing, go back to your country kind of language and understanding.
Right.
I think that would also help us in understanding what did this country look like before colonization took effect. And understanding a little bit about colonization. Anthea Butler, she writes, her book is White Evangelical Racism, The Politics of Morality in America. And she speaks to the rise of white evangelicalism. And unfortunately, not just white evangelicalism, but white evangelical racism. And how all of that has, when we talk about things being politicized, what that looks like. I won't say that it just started with Jerry Falwell, but there was a time in the 50s and 60s when Jerry Falwell was, this whole thing about race and integration and things like that. The church doesn't need to talk about that. That's political. You get to the 70s, and all of a sudden he wants to talk about the moral majority. He had changed his tune and wanted to wrap not just politics, wrap religion and politics and get it all swirled together, which is always dangerous.
Yes.
It is always dangerous when you have empire and religion together. And then Rudy Rasmus, I'm Black, I'm Christian, I'm Methodist. And he writes from his perspective on this particular issue of racism and being Methodist and his experience as a Christian. What does that look like? So those are my first 5 books. First 5.
That's a great one. And let me add one. I have more, but I just want to add one because you were talking about generational wealth and everything.
Yes.
And it just made me think of this great book, The Whiteness of Wealth. And she's a professor, economics professor, and she wrote this book. She's an African American woman, and she goes history, looks back in history, and there's an IRS just about the tax code, and how the tax code has perpetuated and helps this generational wealth, particularly, that empowers and continues to serve primarily or better white folk. So it is a great book. I highly recommend it too as well. That's it. Put it in your list with the other 5.
That's right.
As well. So we are preparing. This is the month of January, and as I said, we are looking forward to the celebrations of Dr. King's legacy in our country and preparing our hearts and our minds. We are also kind of 2 months away from Lent,
That's
kind of
right.
preparation as well. But February is the Black History Month. And for that, our conference and many other entities in the Oklahoma Conference would like to invite people to read the book Our Hearts Were Strangely Lukewarm, written by John Elford. And he is a white man who is writing about the idea of, as kind of can we start our conversation, that most of the education, it falls on the backs of people of color. Kind of explain and there's nothing wrong, as we are having the conversation, that there's nothing wrong, that it's okay to talk about it, but we all have a responsibility. So basically, he's arguing that we meaning all Methodists, and particularly non-colored white people, should engage very emphatically or
Intentionally.
intentionally, that's the word, intentionally into their own journey of faith and into it. So we would like for you guys to, kind of look at it, and maybe, hopefully, you can order your books at Cokesbury, and there is a whole, there is links on our website that you can tell you there is some study guide that you can download and everything. But what do you think it will be, as you said already, about others and the responsibility, but what do you see in the Oklahoma Conference as a good book for it? Not necessarily this book, but just any book to further people's race relations, further their own journey of faith. What do you think, why would you invite anybody, and why would you encourage anybody to do so?
If we start to look at particularly the history, and we look at systems, we are going to find that if we can unravel racism, it will be amazing. We will be amazed at how so many other systems of injustice and oppression that cause harm will unravel as well. And so, so often whenever we look at certain things, people can go, like I said, they'll dial back and they'll say, oh my gosh, so that's why, this is the way that it is. And they can look at it, and the root purpose of it or intent of it had to do with something racial.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think if we could just start somewhere, racism would be a good place.
Yes. Yes.
Racism would be a good place, because I believe that we could find that whether it's genderism, whether it's, we could just continue on, and xenophobia, ableism, all of them, we can find that, when we do this, then we're causing harm.
Yeah.
When we do this, we're othering someone.
Yes.
So I think it's a good place to start.
Yes, it's a great place to start. And I'm just real quick here too. We do a lot of this work together, and just maybe you're thinking, well, maybe my community it is not much diverse. Well, let me tell you that we have done extensive demographic work in our conference for these 2024 and 2025, the arrival of a new bishop, and we know for a matter of fact that across the state, every county, the average white population has contracted 5.2%. And most the average counties are multicultural.
That's right.
And 32% of the population, and as an average, in every county is other than white. And it depends, of course, in counties,
right,
more or less. But all I'm saying is that you will be amazed that in your backyard, even if we don't notice or haven't seen it, we are there.
Yes. Yes.
So it is so important to do this work, right?
That's right.
I like that. And would you like to just expand, because when we said the otherism, would you like to expand just that, what we mean by that, so that people have, if you haven't heard that before, have a grasp on it.
I think about the idea of othering. When I think about that, it is basically taking. It can be a culture. It can be a group of people, racial, ethnic, and or even beyond that, where we actually say that person is so different. Perhaps that person is so outside of whatever I consider or deem normative or traditional, that then I take it upon myself, whether it is consciously or subconsciously, I take it upon myself to then operate in a fashion towards that person that leaves them out, that doesn't consider their humanity. And we do that. We all can do that. And I think a lot of times through implicit bias, we don't even have a clue that we're doing that. So we, othering, considering someone that, if English is their second language, that they're not smart.
Right.
That's a way to other them.
Sure.
That, so, I mean, it's just, there's just so many different things that that we find, unfortunately, like I said, consciously or subconsciously,
Yes.
that we wind up having, we other people.
Yeah, and that's the thing about racism and bias that unfortunately thinks for us.
Yes.
Because those are already embedded in us and those systems and in stories that we tell each other.
That's right.
And it's just there, and sometimes we don't even realize that.
That's right.
Oh, I'm saying those things. Oh, dang! You have to think about it, kind of
Yes.
thing. You have to rethink of yourself. Thank you.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work,
But
yes.
it has to first come to the forefront of our knowledge
Yes.
that we're
Yes.
doing it.
Yes.
Because we don't see it.
Right.
It's just that hidden that we don't see it.
is.
And who wants to admit,
Yeah.
you know, gosh, I'm a bigot. Oh, great. Because, I mean, what comes to mind when you think of bigots? Oh, wow, I'm like Archie Bunker, you know. Oh, gee, you know. I mean, who wants to think like that
Right.
and think that that might be who I am?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think, but if we find ourselves, you know, it's that thing of, I have a friend that says this, and I know it's an old saying, that sometimes the you know, even, what is it? Even a hit dog will yelp. And so, and I know that sounds weird, but it's that thing of whenever somebody says, "Oh my gosh, that was just racist what came out of your mouth," and you, you know, wait a minute, you just got hit, you know,
Yeah.
and if it caused you to have to, all of a sudden, what? No, not me, I'm not a racist, you know. If it caused that, then you were that you were that dog that just got hit that had to yelp, you know. So hello, so it's racism. And a lot of the isms are something that just we've got to come to terms with.
Yes.
And we need to heal our church of all of it.
Yes. 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 Well, there is a lot of work to be done, but hopefully this could be a good step. And all the other books that Reverend Steele suggested as well, all of them are great books, and there are other ones that you obviously you can access yourself. There's many other ones in there. We will have your list, and others there in our website, along with the study sheet, the study guide that comes with this. It was done by the General Commission on Religion and Race, GCOR. You hear those acronyms? Anyway, in this book, we're recommending, encouraging for everybody to read it and to just study. And as I said, it is not the book per se; it is the process, the process of learning more about ourselves, about each other, and hopefully that we can stop doing the other, but that it is all us together, right? And that is, I would say, the legacy that ultimately Dr. King wanted, that we are judged not by the color of our skin, but by the content of our heart. Yeah. So hopefully we can reach that sooner or later.
That's right.
Because the arch of justice is long, but it will arrive one of these days. So thank you for being here.
Thank you
for sharing everything. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for your leadership in the Oklahoma Conference.
Thank you.
And is there anything else finally that you want to say at the end of this to our good people? Or if that's it, or you just want to say thank you, whatever you want to say?
I just want to say thank you. We need to get to work.
Yes.
We've got a lot of work to do, and we need to get to work. And I'm grateful to be a part of it.
No more to be said. Thank you. Have a good one. Hello, you guys. I'm Carlos, and I'm here today with Sharri Healer. And before we start our conversation, I want to remind you, if you have not already done so, to subscribe. Either if you're listening in Spotify or Apple, just subscribe so that you can receive these podcasts every month. Or if you're watching us on YouTube, also subscribe and like us so that you get also the updates as well. And if you know of somebody that may want to know more about what is happening in the Oklahoma Conference, please share with everybody, with your friends, and tell them about Circuit Update. So welcome, and thank you for being here today with us.
Well, thank you, Carlos.
Yes,
I appreciate the invitation.
Of course, yeah, it's exciting. And so just go right into it. So I know that many people know you already, but just for the formality, would you mind to say your name again and what is your title in the Oklahoma Conference?
Okay, well, I'm Sharri Healer, and I am the new conference lay leader.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I currently still hold the title of lay servant director for the conference, but also be announcing a new person in that role to work with me. So.
Awesome, great. So congratulations! I know that happened not too long ago.
That is correct.
Your, installation as Madam President, if you will. So congratulations with that. All right. So what are your hopes and your dreams for the Oklahoma Conference as a lay person?
So, well, my biggest hope, Carlos, is that the laity and the clergy in the conference will work to build partnerships, to do ministry together, to support one another in our mission of loving God's people. I just have always felt the importance of the connection in the United Methodist Church, and just think that that starts with the clergy and laity. Of course, I would be amiss to not talk about the 5 dreams that we've been talking about around the annual conference recently. And just to remind people, those 5 dreams are new churches for new people, revitalized churches, communities impacting poverty, healthy clergy leading healthy churches, and new leaders for an emerging conference. They're all great dreams, and I think they'll all, as we work into them, we'll have to become partners to realize all these dreams. But my 2 that I'm really passionate about are healthy clergy leading healthy churches. You look around the annual conference, and so many times the clergy's working so hard and doing everything they can to share God's love in their local church and then in their local communities, and they just get burnt out, for lack of a better term, and they just need some really special help. And so I am really hoping that this initiative will help the laity to understand that, their pastor in their pulpit's just a human being too, and they have all the issues that we have. And that, if you see something and they need some special help, to help be that conduit to, not stigmatize it and encourage them to reach out and get the help they need or be that help they need. So I'm really excited about that. And then the new leaders for the emerging conference, as conference director of Lay Servant Ministries for the last couple years, we've been really trying to figure out a way to get training out to the people. It's so hard to travel. It's so hard to get time commitments for an overnight type training. People just, can't afford to be gone that long. And so we've done some initiatives. Now let me back up, I guess. If you're not familiar with lay servant ministry, which I know you are, but for those of you who aren't, lay serving ministry is leading, caring, and communicating, and it's a training for members of local churches who desire to use their spiritual gifts to serve in their local churches, in their communities, their district, at the annual conference level, or even the general conference level. And so it's some great training that's available at very low cost to just help us in our discipleship journey as lay people. And so the Board of Laity has been really working on strengthening that in Oklahoma. And we're getting ready to roll out a new program in the first of the year that will help local churches to provide this training. And if people want the credit for lay servant ministry, they'll be able to get it through just like a Bible study in their local church. So we'll be looking for that. I'm sure we'll advertise that heavily when it comes out. So.
Yes, I think that I like your emphasis on the healthy clergy and healthy churches, because you said pastors get overwhelmed, but one of the things that when the survey came to be, it was kind of easy to identify how a healthy clergy looks like, but sometimes it was harder for our brothers and sisters in laity that how does that look for a church? So I like this partnership idea that together we can build and figure out what this healthy looks like.
Right, yeah.
And in the leadership, we are in need of keep advancing our journey of faith together. So that's great. That's awesome. All right. So what do you think your role as a lay leader is for this new season of rebuilding in the annual conference?
Well, so the conference lay leader is an elected position. It's elected by the Board of Laity. And I have been elected then to represent the laity of our annual conference, facilitate several different things, to help lay participate in the programs and ministries of the church, and help them to be a part of the decision making at the annual conference level, at their local church level, and at their district level, to make sure they understand that they are a part of that.
Yes.
For every clergy position we have, there is a corresponding lay position.
Yes.
And so just making people aware and taking their authority
Yes.
as lay people in their local churches. I also want to help connect the local church with the annual conference. You know, so many times, some local churches I'm finding don't even understand we have an annual conference office, that there's programs available to help them in their ministry.
Yes.
So just helping them realize what connectionalism really means. And the money that they send up here, you know, is just not going to pay somebody's salary.
Right.
It's to help them
Yes.
and help them realize where they can get that help. So I really hope to be a conduit for that. And then just in general, I see myself as a bridge, if you will, between the annual conference office and the district superintendents and the local churches. A lot of times there seems to be a real disconnect. And especially now with fewer district superintendents and larger areas for them to cover and more churches. Helping our laity understand that, and that it's not going to look like it did 30 years ago.
Of course,
And that how they can be a part of the solutions instead of just, well, why can't we? And so, you know, let's be a part of the solution to help everybody get the job we need to do done. So, and to do all this, that's going to require building those partnerships we've already talked about. So like I said, there's for every clergy position, there's a corresponding lay position. So the conference lay leader corresponds to the bishop. And so that'll be one of my first tasks is building a partnership with Bishop Merrill, getting to know each other and our different styles and leadership styles, so we can help the church in Oklahoma fulfill our mission. So I'm really looking forward to that. I haven't got to spend a whole lot of time with her yet, but I really like what I'm seeing. So I know that's not going to be a hard part of my assignment. So.
No, it's not.
Also, same with the district superintendents, which most of them, because of the connectionalism of the church and the amount I've been involved in the Methodist Church over the years, I know most of them on a, you know, first name basis and already have a relationship. So that won't be a heavy lift but it'll just be, you know, working with them closer than I have in the past, other than my own district superintendent. And then the annual conference staff, you know, building closer relationships with you so we can team together and make sure the information you need to get out to the local churches is getting out in a way that is helpful for everyone. So I'm really hoping to be able to do that. I also see part of my role is helping people in Oklahoma just understand what's going on at the general conference level in the general church.
Yes, very important.
You know, getting these constitutional amendments passed next year, I think will be a big, one of the big initiatives of the Board of Laity to help local churches and answer questions so people can make informed votes when we do that, when we get together next year.
Yes, and in partnership with that, I know that you keep going, but in partnership, we also beginning of the year, we're going to be rolling out as well small informative videos about what is this, what are the constitutional amendments and regionalization, and we're going to have a whole, you know, PowerPoint and things that people can access and customize for their own congregation. So partnering with that is going to come up as well, and we're going to be partnering with you all.
Right, so absolutely, we want to be a part of that to help to get that information out. So.
Well, I liked your theme of built bridge maker.
Well, you know why I use that term, don't you? I am a civil engineer in the transportation industry.
There you go.
So,
So I love it. I love it. It's great.
So I will probably use a lot of those kind of
well, you know,
illustrations.
you know that Pontifex, or the Pope, is what it is, a bridge maker. So
I did not realize
yeah,
that.
so,
Okay.
so it can be the Pope.
No thanks.
No, moving along. Moving
Yeah.
along. Okay. What are the highlights that you have seen, that you have experienced serving as a layperson in the Oklahoma Conference?
Well, I didn't become a United Methodist until 1991.
Tell me more.
My husband, Jeff, who's also a civil engineer, we were working for the Department of Transportation and had opportunities for promotions. And he was going to go to work in Duncan, and I was going to go to work in Ardmore. And when you draw two circles, the center was Ringling, Oklahoma. And so we ended up in a rent house west of Ringling, Oklahoma. And it was almost exactly halfway to our two offices to drive. And so our landlord invited us to the United Methodist Church. And that's how we became United Methodist.
Cool.
Jeff loves to tell the story. I was in a choir robe the day we joined the church. So I was already singing in the women's choir that morning, the day we joined. So anyway, and it was a great church to get started out with. It was the best example of a lay-led congregation that understood their role in building the kingdom there in Jefferson County, Oklahoma.
Jefferson County.
And so just they were so nurturing and encouraging of me through our times there. I was encouraged to go to, at the time, lay speaking training, which is now lay servant training. Encouraged me working in camping ministries, taking kids from Ringling to camp, becoming camp deans at different camps, leadership roles, and then in the local church, served on almost every committee there, district roles, annual conference roles even. I was actually an alternate delegate to the 2012 General Conference in Tampa, and then I was a delegate at the past General Conference in Charlotte. So they were just always encouraging of me, and so I really appreciate the folks down in Ringling. You know, there's been several highlights over my time now, these last almost 40 years now. But almost all my top experiences have been at camp. Just watching children and youth see God in a new way is just incredible. In fact, just this summer, there was a camper that they were about ready to go home. They were not having a good time. Just things weren't going well. And so that afternoon, they went ahead and chose to go out on the high ropes course, and I was out there. And several of the other campers and adults were encouraging them to get through the high ropes course. And they got through it, and a different person come off that high ropes course. They were just totally transformed, stayed the whole week, thrived, and now I'm keeping up with them through their local pastor, and you know, they're involved in their local ministry now. And so, you know, just being able to witness things like that has really made it special for me to be a lay person involved. So.
People growing, I remember camps is also one of my highlights as well, because I have seen as well how children and adults, everybody that gets involved in that, it's a life transforming event. And events all through the summertime and any other times.
Absolutely.
All right. So I've been asking everybody who has gone through here through Circle Update this question, and I'd like to phrase it this way: how do you keep yourself coming back to the heart of the church and not be consumed by the business of the church, right? Kind of center in God.
Yeah, so such a great question. So for me right now, it's worship at my local church, which is New Hope, Oklahoma City. Our music ministry is just incredible. There's just singing in the choir with an orchestra and an incredible organist and pianist. It's just, you know, there's some Sundays after we get done with an anthem, I just want to start bawling. It's just, you know, so touching, and it really does a good job. Something else I found this summer that I've actually stuck with, because that's kind of like my not my very strong point of staying and study, and so I will admit it, and I've admitted it to other people. But something I have been able to stick with is the Methodist Book of Daily Prayer, which was published in 2023, and it follows the Christian calendar. So I really like that. I like the liturgical calendar, and so but it's short prayer. It's a morning prayer and reading, and an evening prayer and reading for 5 days out of the week. So
That's cool. Yeah.
so I've been able to keep that. And lastly, just attending camps. I still get to help with camps in the summer, at least one.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's nothing better than camp worship done correctly.
Yes, that's right.
So
I agree.
it's really good.
Do you do any of the winter ones? Because
I have not.
you have not.
No.
I've never gone one to either.
So yeah.
And I'm curious to know about what is it, compared to, your.
It's colder.
Yeah. Yes, you're, kind of sizzling yourself in the summertime.
Yeah.
What does it be in the wintertime? I don't know. What activities do people do and everything? I don't know.
I do know our campsites are beautiful in the winter
Yeah,
too. Because
yeah, they
I lived at one for a while.
You did.
There was nothing better than Cross Point in the winter. So.
Did the lake ever froze a little? or
No, we never had that with the lake. We occasionally would get some snow, and it was really pretty down at the cross. So, so for those of you that may not know, my husband Jeff was a site director manager down at Cross Point for a few years.
Cool.
So
yes, I enjoy Cross Point.
Yeah. So, but all three are great.
Yes, they are. They are.
They're
they have their beauty of their own.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for that. So, just to remind those who want to keep that, your daily devotion, what is it?
It is the Methodist Book of Daily Prayer, and it was published in 2023.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I'll do the Lectio Divina. I like that. I listen to it, but that's another thing. All right.
Yeah,
so to wrap it up, just us again, thank you for being here. But what is your word for the laity of the Oklahoma Conference that you wanted to tell them?
Well, this started back when I was the district lay leader for Lake Country. But any time I had an audience of local church members, I would ask them, well, how long have you been a member of your local church? And for any of them that had been there more than 20 years, I'm like, how many pastors have you had since you've been in that church? And especially down in Lake Country, the southeast part of the state, which is what's now the southeast district, most of them had at least 5 or 6.
Wow. Yeah.
And, if they'd been there 40 or 50 years, it was definitely a lot more than that. And I'm like, so what's the consistent thing in your local church? And it's the laity. It was them.
The people.
And so I just really want to remind the laity that it's our jobs in our local churches to be the ministry. I mean, we need the clergy, we need their partnership, and we need to work with them. But the constant is us.
Yes,
we know our context, we know what the people around us need.
Yes.
Where the hurting is. And so I just really want to encourage laity to take their authority.
Yes.
And to help their new clergy when they come in, to understand, what's going on and what needs to be done, and just be there for them and keep doing the good work that they're already doing, and not wait for the clergy to take the lead when you get a change in clergy.
That's awesome.
So, because we just really need to encourage each other to get through it. Because for the local church to thrive, the laity needs to continue to connect and to communicate and to serve, not only inside their local church, but in their community and even beyond.
Yes.
And so we just need to encourage each other to take that next new step in our faith journeys. So clergy and laity alike.
Yeah.
Because we're all still on the journey.
All of us.
Yeah. Just because you have clergy,
Yep. I like it. So if you do not remember anything about this conversation, but there's 2 things that I think that point out to me: bridge making and take thou authority. Right?
Yeah.
So remember those things, and thank you for being here today.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for all you do, and I'm looking forward to partner with you with the Board of Laity and working alongside with you on this 2025 and see where God is taking us.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
and we are as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, and good to see you guys, and see you soon.